What's up, guys? Welcome to another video, microelectronics. We're going to be looking at the Raspberry Pi again. Yes, we're going to be playing with the Raspberry Pi. This one is going to be kind of interesting. What we're going to be doing is we're going to make kind of a cool little gizmo out of this guy, as the title suggested. We're making kind of a homemade door security system for everybody. Except the unique thing about this system is it will email you. Instead of setting off a siren and just making it annoying for everybody in the vicinity, it will also send an email. I won't have it do any type of audible noise, even though you could add that to it at any point. But right now we're just going to focus on sending an email with this guy. Well, obviously, to make it more versatile, we can't be having a network cable with us. We're going to be setting up a wireless dongle, which I'll put in the links below. You can buy these for very inexpensive. Inexpensively, I got one of these and it was extremely reasonable in price. And so I'll put it, like I said, I'll put a link in the description. But anyway, I just got a simple, it was called micro USB 158 megabits per second, 2.4 gigahertz wireless adapter, yada yada yada. But anyway, very simple little guy that gives you the ability to connect to a wireless network. So what we're going to do is we are going to now use our terminal window here, and we're going to set this up. Now I am connected to it through that, so I won't go through the reboot process, but more or less I'll show you how to set up all the files and everything, and then all you would have to do is just reboot it and then it would begin working. So okay, what I'm going to do first is, first thing is first, I don't like being in like, I guess, underprivileged mode. I like to go ahead and get into root. So we're just going to do a sudo switch user and root real quick. And that'll put us into root mode. That way we don't have to type sudo before everything. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to set up our interface. Now what you would do is you could either if you're booting up your Pi for the first time, you just plug it into a TV or something, go find a keyboard or mouse or whatever, and you could go ahead and set up the IP address for the wired port, and then do like I'm doing and SSH to it later on and configure it the way I'm doing it now. Or you can just straight away configure what I'm doing just right from a TV or a monitor or whatever you can hook up with a extra keyboard and mouse combo. If you want to look at how to set up IP addresses and whatnot for the wired port, you can check out some of my other videos in my Raspberry Pi series. If you go to my channel, there should be a link for a playlist that's there that you can click on that has all the Raspberry Pi tutorials. I'll be adding this one to it, and you can view that setup. It's in the initial setup of your Raspberry Pi. So anyway, moving forward, I'm going to assume that you've viewed some of those videos or whatever, so I'm not going to go over a whole lot of other stuff in greater detail. So I'm just going to kind of run through this part because it's pretty straightforward. First thing we're going to do is we're going to cd into Etsy, and then we're going to go to network. And once we're in there, we're going to Nano. I like using Nano. You could use VI. I think there's another one. I don't remember what the other one is, but there's a toss-up between VI and Nano, and I like Nano. Nano's pretty straightforward. So Nano, the interfaces file. So once we nano the interfaces file, you're going to come in here, and now I've gone ahead and set this one up, but I'm going to walk through how you do it. Normally, these 4 lines right here are not in here by default. This is usually blank, this section right here. But I'm going to walk you through. This iFace ETH0, that is your wired Ethernet, and it's set up to DHCP pull a IP address. Now, your WAN, your WLAN 0 is your wireless LAN. It's set up for manual configuration, so it has a config file, and that's this WPA ROM. It goes to this WPA supplicant.config to set up the config for the wireless internet, or wireless network connection. So now we'll be editing that file shortly, but for right now we're going to set up all of our other stuff. I'm going to skip this iFace home thing for right now and just go down. We've got the address. You're going to set up. This is for, and also this is for doing static IP. If you don't want static IP, technically you'll just have to configure, I believe, the Supplicant file, and that's it. You'll just have to configure the Supplicant file, and then it automatically pulls it DHCP. So this is for static configurations. You'll see why we want static, is so you can always SSH to it. If you power it on or power it down or whatever, you don't take a chance on the IP address changing. So this is all static configuration. Anyway, you come down here, put in address, and I'm doing 1.30 is what I'm doing. Netmask /24, and then I'm doing my default gateway as .1. That's my router address. So pretty straightforward there. This line down here is by default. Up here, this iFace home, iNet static. What I'm doing is I'm creating my own kind of like sub interface for this WLAN, and you'll see why this is important. And it's how you can get the static IP address to stick to the wireless LAN port. Otherwise, if you don't add this line in, you're going to have trouble getting the IP address to stick. It'll just pull it via DHCP, and you won't actually get a static IP address. So anyway, iFace home, and you want to remember what you've named this interface. So I've named it home. This can be whatever you want. You can say office, or say work, or test, or temporary, or whatever you want to name it. But anyway, I've named it home, and then iNet, and then iNet, and then the last one is static. This is going to be a static IP address, so you want the static in there as well. So okay, we're going to come back, and we're going to cd into Etsy. We're going to go to the WPA Supplicant file directory, and we're going to nano WPA supplicant.config. Okay, first when you pull this up, it's going to be basically like this. You're just going to have this information. And what I do is I just trash can this. So I'm going to hit a Control K for cut text. You can see that down here, that caret K says cut text. I'm just going to do a Control K twice, get rid of all that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in the following, except I'm not really going to type it in when I'm doing. I've already done this, so I'm going to cut and paste it in here for you. Oops, that's not it whatsoever. That's the wrong thing. I copied the wrong thing. Excuse me. Let's see if I can get this right. There we go. Okay. What you're going to do is you're going to type this network equals and then open curly brace and close curly brace, and everything you're going to put in the middle. You're going to give the SSID equals, and you're going to put in your SSID, so whatever it may be, whether it be testnet or whatever your SSID is. You're going to set the scan SSID to 1. You're going to set the key management to, if you're using WPA and you're using the passphrase, which most everyone does, you set the, basically the encryption to the WPA PSK. The passkey phrase, then you type in your passkey phrase, and yes, it has to be within these quotes. Same with your SSID, will be inside those quotes. Those quotes don't go away, they stay there. So anyway, you'll put your passphrase in. And then you'll say, and this is the key part that links those two together. Remember how we named the interface, at least I named the interface the home. I said iFace home. That's where you do this ID str, which is the string ID, and you type whatever you put in there, home or testnet or whatever it is that you declared for that. You type in here, and that will link the IP address and everything to this SSID that you're going to, and we'll actually link up all that static configuration. And then priority 15 just sets the priority of this guy. It's good enough. I believe that's the highest priority. But anyway, that's basically what you're gonna do. And so once you do that, like I said, you'll do a reboot, and of course, you'll save it, yes, and all that stuff. And you will perform a reboot. And then the best thing that I say once it reboots and comes up is try to ping your default gateway. So try to ping the default gateway. And when you get this, that means that it's good to go. You've got it. I'm hitting Control C to get out of that. And then also to make sure you got the internet, ping something like, I don't know, Google, good example. And yes, we're getting it from Google. Control C to cancel out of that. So we're good to go. So I'm going to go back to my home directory. So we're good to go on that one. Now that we've got all of our IP addressing stuff set up, and like I said before you actually do that ping stuff, you'll want to reboot once you've set all those configuring files. You can do a shutdown -R now, and that'll restart your guy, or you can type reboot. I can't remember which one that is, but anyway, you can do that, and it'll reload it, refresh it, reboot it all up, and it'll read those config files in, and then it'll be good to go. So once, like I said, you've come back up, I'm going to issue a clear to get rid of all that junk. It'll come up, as normal. You can sudo switch user and change it to root, so that way you don't have to type sudo before everything. And now we're going to install a very good application that is going to help us with doing the email, with being able to send an email. And so first things first, we have to get it and install it. What we're going to do is an apt get. We're going to do an install of the SSMTP server as well as the mail utilities for this. So we're going to hit go. That's going to hopefully download all that fairly quickly. And then we'll get to hit yes. We want to install it. It should connect up. Looks like we're getting all the pieces. So we're going to let that download, and it should install it. And once we get that all installed and everything, we'll come back. Okay, so everything looks like it has finished loading. So that's the magic of cameras, isn't it? You guys don't have to sit through that horrible install. Anyway, so now everything's set up. So I'm going to issue a clear real quick. Now what we will do is we'll go ahead and begin the configuration of this guy. So to do that, we're going to have to edit the config file. So where this is located as, we need a cd into etc ssmtp ssmtp and then there should be, if we do an ls, there should be the config file. So we're going to nano that ssmtp.config, pull that up, and once we get into here, what we're going to do is we need to go to the mail hub. And this mail hub is where you are going to set up your email address, or at least the SMTP server that you're going to be using. So in this case, an email address I'm going to use is my Gmail address. So smtp.gmail.com 587 is the port number. Okay, so then we're going to come down to let's see if we can go down to here. So now what we'll need to do is we need to add a few lines. So I'm going to come down here, give ourselves some space. We're going to add a few lines. Auth user, and this equals, and this will be your email at gmail.com. This is what it's going to be. And then your auth pass equal, password. And this will be your password. Okay. And then we also need use, this is all caps, start TLS equals, we want yes. We want use TLS equals yes. Okay. So that's essentially what we will use to set up our email. And what you can do is, once we set that up, which I'm going to pause, set that up. You didn't think I was going to give you my email, my password, did you? Just kidding. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and set that up, and I'll be right back. Okay, now that the config file has been created, we are going to be ready to test an email. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention was that ssmtp.config file is not encrypted. So when you do your email address and your password, it is going to be viewable for anybody that has access to your Raspberry Pi. So you want to be careful with that. You may want to create like a ghost email address, somewhere go to Yahoo or Hotmail or someplace and create just some bogus email that you're going to use for forwarding, so it's not that big of a deal if somebody gets your password or whatever. So just keep that in mind, that that's not encrypted. So now what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and I'm going to go back to my home directory and issue the clear. We're going to go ahead and send a test. So the test command is going to be echo. We'll say hello world. That's our famous programming one. We'll say we want to mail it, -s, subject is going to be a hello world test, let's say, is our subject. And we need to pick an email address. Oh, we'll do mine. So, hooray. And go. Theoretically, it should send. Hopefully, we should get it. So anyway, looks like we cannot send message. Process actually with a non-zero status. Well, we'll have to see what's up with that. Hang on just a minute. Okay, guys. Well, sorry about that little blip in the road, but what it was I actually had a Hotmail account that I was using, and just Hotmail in this does not work. So I've switched to my Gmail account, and so now we're going to go ahead and issue our echo hello world mail. So we're going to hit go and take it a few seconds. It completes okay, and once it's completed, I can actually check my Gmail, and I'll click on it. You can see here it says it came from root, and the root address was my Gmail address, and there's our hello world. So that's basically it, folks, on how to create that. We're going to get into then the programming next time of how to program our script. Well, script/program. We're probably going to use the .c file to enable the switch, because what we're going to do is we're going to make a switch that will then trigger this email. So that way we can mount this onto a door and create like a security system. The minute you open the door, basically breach the room, it'll send out the email. So very simple, very straightforward, but that's what we're going to be doing. Okay, guys, how you doing? Okay, now this next part, what we're going to do is we're going to make the cable that's going to connect to this. Since we got this wonderful header here, we got to make a cable that will connect to it. Now, I'll probably put up on the screen what connections we need to make. Let's see. Let's go ahead and look at that now. Okay, so as you could see from that picture, we were going to do number 22 is the pin that we have coded in our code. And so what we got to do is we got to now make a cable that we can connect to a little micro switch. The micro switch we're going to use, it's the only one I could find. This is at a local Radio Shack or whatever. It's a little micro switch, and you'll see how this is going to get mounted later on. But for testing purposes, we're going to use this little micro switch. So that's what we're going to do with that. You also need a pen. I'm using one of these silver Sharpies because they show up real well on black, and you'll see what I'm talking about here in just a second. I am going to use an old ribbon cable from a PC. This happens to be the ribbon cable that connects the old floppy disk drive. You know how there's those old 3.5-inch floppy drives or whatever they are. Well, anyway, since no one uses floppy drives anymore, since we have flash drives, I'm just going to take this cable and we're going to cut it up. What I did is took a pair of scissors here, and everything's so close here since I'm zoomed in. Take a pair of scissors and just basically cut the end off. Let me get the other end. Basically, I cut the end off. So here is the other end of the cable. Well, actually, it was this way. And I just took Took a pair of scissors, and you just take a pair of scissors and just cut it off. And so I cut that right off. Works quite well. But see, now what we can do is if you take your fingernails, you can separate each wire if you need to. You can take and split off and separate each individual wire. Now the red one usually corresponds to pin 1 on this connector. Okay? So, but what we're going to do is, since we're going to change it up, we're going to have to redo our pin 1 because obviously this header isn't this long and it's not polarized. If you can see right there, let me grab a probe or something to show you. Right here, I've kind of marked it with that silver pencil. That's actually a blanked off spot. So since that's blanked off, obviously it won't actually go on. So what we have to do is we have to scoot in. We have to scoot in on this connector. So that way it will actually go on. We can't actually put it on. If I can show you. We can't take this like this and put it on because of that blanked off section. We actually have to scoot down on the connector, as you can see, down this way, and then it will finally go on. See? So we're basically skipping these outer 4 and these outer 4, and we're connecting it in here, which is perfectly fine. It connects, and we can find the cables. It's just you'll have the inner 4 and the inner 4. You won't be connected to anything. It'll be these here in the middle. So anyway, unplug it. So what I did, just to make life simpler, is I took one of these markers, and I just went ahead and marked where basically pin 1 is going to go right here, just by coloring on it. And then that shows up real nice and good. Okay, and then if you want, I was kind of showing, kind of like I drew a line, draw a line down, knowing where it's going to be connected at. Draw a line. This is really hard to do looking through a camera's viewfinder. Okay, so these are basically the sections that are not going to be connected. This is the section that will be. Okay, so what I'm going to do is right now I'm going to go ahead and power down my Raspberry Pi, because as you can see right now it's powered up and I actually have it up on the computer. So I'm going to pause for just a second, power that down, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how to quickly find your cables, your cable ends that are here. So let me go ahead and power down and find that real quick. Okay, we've gone ahead and powered it down, and I've unplugged the power from it, so we're kind of ready to go. Here's a quick and easy way to do this. I'm going to go ahead and plug this in, as you can see. Go ahead and plug this in. Okay, so now all those pins have been brought to these guys. Well, which one is which? So an easy way to do this is if you have, I don't know, can I zoom out a little bit? Zoom out a little bit, show you all my junk that's laying around. Okay, let's move some of this stuff out of the way. If we use a good old-fashioned multimeter, put it on ohms, okay. Attach me some probes here. Oops, my probes are all tangled. Just a second, let me get these all. Okay, so get some good old probes. You can there's usually a setting on these meters, like my meter. If you notice, looks like a little speaker. If you push this button, it says that basically it's got the active low symbol, which means that it'll only beep when you make a connection. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Okay, but that's the continuity checker is what that is of the multimeter. So you're going to take that. What we're going to do is to find pin 1 of this guy. It should be about like the fifth guy in from the edge. And so if I count over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm just going to make a tear in it. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this one's the 5th one. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to ohm this, and I'm going to see if I can find pin 1. Because if I can find pin 1, then I'll look for the pin that I'm looking for. So that's what I'm going to do. And if you flip your Raspberry Pi over, look, you have access to all the pins on the bottom. So what you'll do is you'll put a meter here on this pin, and then you'll go through one by one on these and see where it beeps. And you should, once you find the correct one, you should hear that beeping sound. And then you know that you found the pin that you're looking for. So I'm going to do that for that pin 22 and for the ground pin, and I'll come back when I've found both of those, and we'll probably go ahead and I'll solder this guy on. What I'll do is I'll figure out, well, in fact, right here, I don't know if you can see it, maybe the camera will focus or not, but there's an NC for normally closed, and there's an NO for normally open, and then there's a C for the common. So this is the common point, which is common between these two guys. The normally closed, if you can see that, the normally closed means that right now, and in fact I'll show it to you, right now if I continuity check, let me get my guys out here. If I continuity check from this pin, see if I can get it through that little hole, to this pin, it should be normally closed, which means without it being actuated, it just setting at rest, it should be closed. And there we go. The normally open means that it's normally open. So if I touch it, nothing's going to happen until I click it. See that? Same thing with this one. This one will open when I click it. So it's closed right now until I click it, and then it opens up. So there's your normally open, normally closed. So I'm going to go ahead and get this all connected up, find where the deals are, get this connected up, and then you're going to, and then I'll be back when it's all connected. So back in a bit. Okay, guys, we're back, and I have gone ahead and put this together. What I did was I went ahead and soldered our little guy on. I found the pins that it is. So what I did was I split them all out, you know, and what I did was I cut off the excess. I'd split all the pins out so I could count them, and what I did was I just cut the excess off so it looks nice and clean. You can probably fold it up or something, you know, but that way it looks nice and clean. But anyway, it goes across there, connects those pins. This is exactly the way it goes on. And so all you have to do now is take and connect up your Raspberry Pi. Push it on there. It is now connected. Time to go check it out on the door facing. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the video here. We'll click this on. I'll show you how to make a bracket and whatnot and put this up onto a door, and we'll test out our door alarm system. Oh, this ought to be cool. Okay, guys, I've got the camera sitting here. What I've done is I've actually taken a little L bracket. I don't know if you can see that. And I've put a little strip of adhesive, that foam-like adhesive tape stuff on the back of it that's double backed, and we're going to mount it to a door facing. So let's take all this. We're going to go over here. Let's walk over here and go up to the door facing. And what we're going to do is find a door that turns in, you know, so it can go into the room or out of the room. This door comes out. But what we're going to want to do is right there in the corner of the door, you're going to want to take and you're going to want to mount your switch about like that. That way, when the door comes in and hits, it'll click the little sensor. And I'm going to go ahead and mount that up there, and I'll be right back. Okay, guys, looks like I got this thing all mounted up in here. FYI, make sure you choose a big enough L bracket. Mine was actually kind of small, so what I had to do is put a sticky thing on the side of this clippy deal. I had to actually change up the one that I showed you before, and I had to move this down so that way it reaches the top of the door and the door opens up. And if you don't have enough backing up here, when the door opens, it'll actually take and twist this thing. This thing will twist and then it won't click the button. So you got to make sure and have enough backing up here. Like I said, I just randomly found this little L bracket, so you could probably get one of the wider ones, and then that way you could really mount it way up here and then it would still come all the way down and reach the door. So just something to keep in mind. Then all I did was I just kind of just very coarsely, I mean, you'd probably make it look better than this, but I just kind of taped the Raspberry Pi up here and then ran the cord down the wall and plugged it into a plug-in. So that's basically how it is mounted up there. Now, let's see how it works.